Okay. I think we're live. Yes, we are. Good. Oh, you're loose. Oh dear. It's going to snap. It's so tight and still loose. Oh, right. Lovely. Okay, everyone's working. Okay. I'm just on basically just to get myself set up for tonight. I'm going to leave that. I'll mess that up if I start playing with stuff. I'm actually doing an interview tonight for the Socially Distant Fest. A girl called Taylor who lives in Calgary. She runs wee radio station things and lots of social media and fun. So I'm doing an interview at 9:30 this evening for the Socially Distant Fest, and it's going out live and all that, which I didn't realize it was going to be live. I'll be honest. I thought it was going to be pre-recorded. So I kind of thought, oh God, my energy levels have been low for the last wee while. I did that big event Saturday and then just crashed. So I thought I better come on and actually kind of, get warmed up, get myself used to this. So basically, I'm going to tell me a story towards the end of this little chat or whatever we do. But I thought I would come on and just actually get myself prepped by throwing it out there. Ask me anything. Basically, if anyone's got a burning question or a silly question or even just a generically odd question, do me a favor. That's brilliant, Chris. Okay. Well, a mummy and a daddy who love each other very much write a letter. And that letter gets posted to a very special place. And then all of a sudden, they've got a baby. I can't answer that. I don't even know. I'm a 43-year-old man. I'm clueless about that stuff. Yes. Ask me anything. Chris, that's a good starting point. That is a brilliant starting point. But we are not going to go into the reproduction systems of male and female. And you said, ask you anything. Yes, I know I did. And I have answered it. I should be more specific. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. Although that did give me a good laugh. So thank you very much, Chris. That was awesome. Do they really love each other? God. Okay, screw it, guys. We're doing this. It depends what country you're from. Most people, thankfully, still have a great belief system that love is involved before creating new life. In Scotland, it's not so much love, it's the council estate house that they're hoping to get. And of course, like the benefit payments. I don't know what it's like in Canada, so I'm basically going to say I think hopefully Canada's better. But in Scotland, yeah, basically you get a free council house and lots of benefits if you find yourself with child, particularly if you just use the man as a donor and then get rid of him. So no, maybe they don't need to love each other, Cassandra. Maybe love isn't involved. But I would like to think most occasions it is about love. Yeah, it's like the ultimate Disney movie. We all like love. We all like Disney movies, particularly like the new ones like Marvel and all that. They're so much better. Lol. Hi, Warren. Yes, this Ask Me Anything just to get me warmed up for tonight's interview has gone a bit skew. I'll tell you that. Does anyone else have a lovely question to ask? Oh, and by the way, guys, I also let you know if anybody actually wants to join me on the live stream. And by that, I do actually mean you have your face next to mine on the same screen, but socially distant from each other because we'll be doing it remotely. Let me know because this new system allows me to do proper conversation interview chats like that. So if anyone wants to just come on for, we'll just call it shits and giggles, then you're more than welcome to do that. Because I want to experiment and try these new things, and I'm going to try and do interviews for various things that I'm doing anyway, like the new podcast that I will eventually decide what I'm doing. Disney had a real They did have a real obsession with orphan children. Yes. I'm not entirely sure why. That's a very interesting topic. I'm thinking about fairy tales. You see, it's not so much Disney. Fairy tales had a very interesting, like they really went in deep for making sure the kids were traumatized. Like when you look at a lot of the old traditional folk and fairy tales, basically to qualify for being in one, you had to be a traumatized individual. It was very strange. Unless you were a princess, and then what would usually happen is the trauma would come after the happy life, kind of like, hey, life is great, screw you. It's just the way it is. What have we got here? Do you know Clan Hamilton? No. Chris, the thing with the clans is they're quite complex. Um, a lot of the clans that we know of. So, right, how do we put this? Right. So basically we were too busy butchering, slaughtering, raiding sheep, fornicating illegally with other people and sheep to basically be able to have a proper structure for the clans. So the clans there was a lot of infighting, there was a lot of taking land, a lot of slaughter, a lot of marriages of basically to bond families. So what it did is it made it a bit of a stramash. Add to that, from about the sort of 12, 1300s, a lot of the documentation of Scotland kept getting stolen from us. And it was shipped down to England and held there. And there is one incident, and I can't remember the dates now, but we actually got it back. We asked for it back and they sailed it back to us. But the ships it was on were basically sunk at sea. They were lost. So a lot of documentation. For example, most of the 13th century is gone. Okay, so when you hear people saying I'm related to Robert the Bruce, you can actually turn around and challenge them and say, how do you know that, since most of the paperwork is at the bottom of the sea? As for the clans, because they were a very strange kind of, as I say, it was a mashup in a very violent time, documentation wasn't as clear. I mean, it is there, but sometimes you might think that you're a member of a clan. Like, for example, my clans are MacDonald and McPherson, and we are members of them through septs rather than actually being direct, like family lineage. We are family lineage to some through some ways, but we're basically septs, smaller family groups, family names that are part of the larger clan. And there's another problem. So you might have the name MacDonald, but your name, you might actually not be anything to do with the MacDonald clan, because depending where your family all moved, came from, you might actually be a part of a completely different clan name simply because of the location, land, any integrations, battles, fights. It's a really complex system. And unfortunately, I'm never going to lie and say I know everything about every single clan. I do try and research and read up about as much as I can, but most of the strong stories, information that's out there are about your more larger traditional clans. You know the names you always hear: your McDonald's, your Campbells, your McLeods, your McLeans, your McGregors. That'll make Cassandra happy. Your Cummins or Comwins, as they were the other big one of the big families. They weren't necessarily a clan. Yeah, they were towards the end, the ones that survived the massacres of Robert the Bruce, basically the eradication. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff about the clans, but sadly, I don't know much about the Hamiltons. Sorry. Glasgow area rings a bell for location wise, but that's quite a broad area. Yes. Yeah, Carrie, that is a great example. You know, when you look at all the folk tales and fairy tales and you look at history, basically they were dealing with some crazy stuff throughout all those time periods. So fairy tales and that makes sense. We'll see what comes out of it at this time. I mean, I don't want to get political, but already I could almost create some fairy tale nightmares about, witches making you drink disinfectant and stuff like that. Just, the usual wholesome stuff. Um, Yeah, Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod we don't speak about, okay? There's a couple of famous movies out there that have taken names. Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod and I Cannot Die. If I remember correctly, he's a Swiss or Swedish or something. Where's he from? The laddie that played Connor MacLeod, Christopher Lambert. He's from I think he's Swiss. He's something like that. He's from that neck of the woods. It's just like that tiny wee short guy from Australia playing Robert the Bruce. Not Robert the Bruce, playing William Wallace. You know, it's not on. It's not on. It's just ridiculous. We have so many good Scottish. I mean, okay, they did a Robert the Bruce one recently called Jings Crivens. It had that Christopher Pine laddie in it. Outlaw King. And it was really good. But I'm watching it and going, why have we got Christopher Pine or Pike or whatever his name is? The guy that plays my head is going tonight. The guy that's in the Marvel movies and the Jurassic Park. But it's like, why are we having him? Why are we having all these? Scotland is filled with amazing Scottish actors. So, like, we're going back to, I see your French Swiss accent. That's it. Yes, that's it. Here we are. We've got this guy, Christopher Lambert, playing Connor MacLeod. Well, we have a Scotsman playing an Egyptian or Spanish. No, he was Egyptian, if I remember. Everyone thought he was a Spaniard, but if I remember, his origins were Egyptian. And it's just ridiculous. Here we have, okay, Sean Connery couldn't have played the lead part, but we have so many great Scottish actors out there, a wealth of great talent. Okay, some of them might need subtitles for you to understand what they're saying, but it doesn't matter. And it always happens, 3 great movies. Is it great? Is Braveheart great? I don't know. The jury's out on Braveheart. It's historically inaccurate. It's ridiculous. It's unnecessary. It's got just even the music's Irish pipes. There's nothing authentic in Braveheart. Other than the horses, I think they were real. Okay, the horses were real. And the landscape was Irish. And the actors, there were some good Scottish actors in there. Probably they're trying to forget about it, though. You're right, Egyptian, yes. Yeah, hey, fella. Chris, I know my movies. Yeah. Living in Scotland. Yeah. Highlander was a good fun movie. They went off the rails with the later ones. Excellent. What's that? Guinea no do. Gonna no do that. Thank you, Warren. Scots. Warren does know he's Scots. So yeah, it's a big issue I've actually got. There's a lot of great actors out there, and for all these movies, like Braveheart, like Highlander, like even the Outlaw King, they've used American, or shall we say, not necessarily American, but they've used the bigger Hollywood movie stars, which is absolutely absurd because you know what? We've got some great, Gerard Butler. Oh yes, there's a good actor. He's more Americanized now, but he's a good guy. Sean Connery. Nobody can deny Sean Connery was a great actor. Who else is there? That's about it. No, there's loads. There's loads like Ewan McGregor and what's his name? One of my favorites, and he's slipped my head now. What have we got here? Karen Gillan. She's okay. She's okay. Actually, she's come up. She's a bonny lassie. She's worked hard, got to Doctor Who, and now she's in Marvel movies and other Hollywood movies. You can't deny that. Give us a sorry, my good friend Warren is typing some basically experience. Give us a poon or I'll stab you. Aye. That is a common thing you might hear in Glasgow. Give us a poon or I'll stab you. Or I'll nae stab you. That's it. Aye. Oh, for goodness sake. Anyway, I am literally on rambling here and just kind of getting myself warmed up for tonight. I've got a couple of things to do beforehand, but I kind of my energy levels have been low, so I kind of thought I better come on and get myself ready for doing something this evening. But yes, thank you, Chris, for those wonderful moments of me ranting about Hollywood movies. It's really funny. Every time I go into school to do storytelling, I either get called a pirate or the kids all ask me if I'm Hiccup's dad. It's so funny to get that. And I mean, it's like, it's nonstop. That is the two references I get. You look like a pirate, and that's when I'm in my kilt gear, or you sound like Hiccup's dad. And I don't mind that so much because, it's just kind of funny. Apart from the fact that, they're wearing horns in their helmets, but that's a whole thing we won't get into today. We'll do that another day. Oh my goodness. Does anyone else have a wee question? I know there's only about 7 people on, but does anyone have an interest? Just to get me warmed up for it's da. Yes, I know, Warren, it's da. Just get me warmed up for my interview tonight, because I have no idea what they're going to actually genuinely ask me. I've got no precursor to what's happening tonight, so I need to get my my brain back in a functioning mode, which, to be honest, hasn't been happening for a while. How's everyone doing with the isolation? Is everyone surviving, feeling healthy, feeling excited, ecstatic, doing wonderful projects? And it's gone silent. Nobody's saying anything. Oh. Where would you recommend a tourist to go while in Scotland? Ah, right, Chris, this is a great question. Like, this is one I am so happy about. Basically, I used to do tours in Edinburgh and out of Edinburgh occasionally if I was really lucky. So I always say, depending on your time frame, Edinburgh's a must, but it's not the be all and end all. So visit the city of Edinburgh, experience the old town, go to a couple of live music venues, see some of the sights, but do not go to Edinburgh Castle, because it is an overpriced monstrosity now. What you want to do is you want to get into Edinburgh just to see the place, and then get a car and drive to the Highlands. If you want to see a nice castle, stop at Stirling Castle. If you want to see another exceptional castle, head up to the Loch Ness area. And there's a beautiful castle, which is basically it's an old settlement. Used to be a Pictish fort, and it's on basically on the water of Loch Ness, and it's called Urquhart Castle. Highly recommend doing that. Get up to Loch Ness, beautiful scenery, but just drive through the Highlands, Fort William, Fort Augustus. If you've got time, get over to the Isle of Skye. There is nothing to do on the Isle of Skye, but that's the point. You just go for the scenery, the beautiful, and the peace and calm. If you have the time, get a ferry over to Lewis and Harris, or I would recommend Islay. If you've got the time, get over to the island of Islay, because if you're a single malt guy, that is where some of the finest whiskey in Scotland is made, on Islay. That's where your Lagavulins, your Collilas, your Lafroigs, your, I think Bunnahabhain's there. Warren, you'll probably know if you're still on. Yeah, there's Warren putting a few comments as well. Yeah, Culloden as well. Very somber, beautiful old battlefield. But there's so much, if you get the right wee roads, you can basically be just driving through beautiful scenery, little villages. There's one road that I love, and for the life of me, I can't even remember it. But you've got trees. It's a really narrow little kind of, 2-lane road. Traditional Scottish roads, basically you've got a hill here at one side and the cars at the other, and you've barely got enough room. It's beautiful. But there's this wee section, and I remember it fondly because, you get the trees both sides, and then it kind of forks. And if you take the right fork, all of a sudden there's just a wee row of cottages. And one of them is this craft centre. It's like a wee Highland craft shop. And it's amazing because we're not talking about your tartan tat like Edinburgh. We're talking about local, handmade stuff, like really nice skiing doos and nice wood carving and beautiful, like just leather working. And it's just stunning. It's an amazing wee place. And for the life of me, I can never remember where it is. I literally, every time I'm there, I find it by pure luck. I mean, I'm driving and I either miss it or not. I've got a feeling it's on the way to Fort William or something like that. Or is it Lykan? No, I can't remember now. Oh, I just can't remember. There's so many beautiful places there. But yeah, literally what you do is when you get to Scotland, you see Edinburgh for a wee while. If you want, you see Glasgow. But you know what? If you've seen one city, you've seen them all. Edinburgh's at least got the historic side to it. And then as soon as you can, you get the hell out of there and head to the Highlands. The Highlands are just beautiful. Take the basically take the Great Glencoe Road. It's stunning. It's morbid. It's just so powerful. You know, beautiful waterfalls. That takes you up kind of to the route where you'd either turn off for Fort Augustus and Fort William, or Skye, if memory serves. I think there's a junction. Maybe it's a wee bit further up. I haven't been back for 5 years and done this road. But yeah, it's absolutely stunning. You just basically get into the Highlands, head up to Inverness for a wee while, head to some of the wee settlements, find a couple of wee local bars. Like if you've ever seen American Werewolf in London, there's a lot of wee bars like that in some of the wee Highland towns. And you go in and it's terrifying because it will literally, the world will stop to see the strangers walk in, and then everyone's fine with you. And most of the people love you up there because they're just kind of good, solid working people. What we got here? I'm just checking. I've missed so many messages. Have you ever met Irvin Welsh? No. I have met J.K. Rowlands, but not Irvin Welsh. What else we got, Stephanie? So I'm just checking. I've got so many messages came through. Super productive email courses, online stuff. Yep. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. That's lovely to hear. God, well, I love this new system, but I can't actually keep up with the messengers. Yep, Urquhart Castle. It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, I love Isla. Yeah. Isla is Islay, Chris. Pitlochry, nice one. Warren, looks spectacular. Yeah, Warren, in case you're wondering, my friend Warren has been to Scotland quite a few times. So he has some great knowledge. He's a Canadian, you know, we'll forgive him. Oh, I didn't say that. Yeah, because I'm living in Canada and loving it now. But yeah, he's a Cummins, so we'll forgive him. But no, he's got a great insight to Scotland as well. So we have he'll kill me for saying this. So basically, when I first met Warren, we just got on so well. And a couple of years back, his wife was away at a teaching conference, and it was one of the cold winters. He'd just moved into his new house round the corner from where I live. So he basically is like, oh, come round and, you know, help me with the garage and we'll move stuff about. So I went round, and I kid you not, we did about 10 minutes worth of work in the garage, and he turns to me and says, oh, let's go for a wee dram. So we go into the house and we get a wee dram, a beautiful, actually, oddly enough, it was a Glenfiddich, but I think it was about an 18-year-old. It was lovely, and it was a big bottle. Oh, I loved it. So we're sitting chatting, and we always just, you know, talk about Scotland and weird stuff and combat stuff and historical stuff and just fun. And he happened to remember that I hadn't seen him do performances at the Edinburgh Tattoo with one of the Burns groups. So we sit down and start watching that and having a whiskey, and we're literally just chatting away, watching various, you know, like doing that thing when you go onto YouTube. Oh, have you seen this Scottish thing, or have you seen that? And just doing that thing all night where we're having fun. And we're basically, it was a reserve cask, thank you. And we're drinking away and just having wee drams at a time. And before we knew it, it was like 2:30 or something in the morning. I kid you not, we like the time just flew by. We look at the bottle of whiskey, and it was a big, like, litre, or what, I can't remember the measurements. But no matter what, we had about that much left in the bottom of the whiskey. And it literally was just like, oh my goodness. And I hadn't contacted Krista, but she knew where I was, so she knew I was safe. And literally, oh gosh, all I remember is leaving Warren's house, and we've got like a 1 litre bottle. It was a 1 litre, Warren. And we've got, you know, the back pathways, you know, with the kids' play parks and all that, that a lot the houses have, you know, they've always got that kind of nice parkland walkway. All I know is I could have sworn I was on the moon. I just felt like I bounced and bounded and leapt my way home. To this day, I'm still not entirely sure how I got home. What I do know is my wife now does remind me that I didn't wake her up, so I must have been a very good boy. But all I'll say is for the next 2 days, I felt rough. It was a great whiskey, but my goodness, I couldn't touch it for weeks after that. We just we definitely dented that bottle that night. But that's what happens when you meet like somebody who's got a passion or family relatives in Scotland here. You just basically get blutered without realizing it, talking about Scottish stuff. It's all very good, and I love it. Bannockburn. Yes. So if anyone's seeing Warren's comment, Bannockburn was last week and Culloden was yesterday. That's a very genuine comment in Scotland. That's the truth. When you speak to Scottish people about history, we talk about it like it was yesterday. We're very passionate and we're very connected to the land, the country, and the history, and particularly battles that we've won. Now, Culloden was a disaster, but Bannockburn, if you ever speak to a Scots guy, and you might have heard me tell the stories of Bannockburn, I talk about it as if it just happened. And the reason for that is we make a national sport out of losing. So therefore, when we win something, forevermore shall we talk of it. And that is pretty much what happened with Bannockburn. It was one of the very few battles we ever won back in 1314. Okay, just to give you an idea, 1314. Okay, so 700 odd years ago, folks, and we're still talking about it like it was yesterday, and we're still incredibly excited about the fact that Robert the Bruce won Bannockburn for us. It was, it's just one of those things. Oh, but anyway, I promise you, I'll get off because I've just been rambling. And thank you so much, folks, for just coming on and throwing a few questions at me just to get me warmed up for tonight. Because I hate going into any interview cold. I also hate going in without any information. And that's kind of what's happening tonight. It's a very raw one. I mean, no doubt I feel they'll be asking about what I do in my performances and kind of how I got into it. I'm expecting a wee bit of that. But you just never know. So it's always nice just to get a wee bit of a little bit of a warm-up, you know. Normally when I go into like CBC or that or do one of the radio shows, they kind of give me an idea like what they want to ask. You know, they don't give you specific questions, but they say, hey, we're probably going to speak to you about A, B, C, D. And of course, you're just like, well, I know the alphabet. I can do that. Oh, that was a dad joke. Oh, prepping myself for the future. But basically, you know, the thing is, it's like tonight, it's just going to be really, I have no idea. And it's live, which I didn't expect. I honestly expected it to be pre-recorded. Not that I actually haven't done so many live interviews. Pretty much everyone I do is live. Good luck. Yes, thank you, Samantha. So before I go, I promised a wee story. And I was thinking about what one to do tonight. And I just thought I'd do a wee short one for you because it's one that I haven't told in a long time. And it's a very different style of story from what I tell. But unfortunately, if you guys have been looking at Facebook or watching the news, the whole world's just starting to feel a wee bit negative. Things are feeling a wee bit weird, and we're getting good news, we're getting bad news, we're getting weird news. We've got strange stuff happening in different countries. We've got, I don't know, it's just strange. So there was a wee story that I haven't told for a while, and I'm probably, I think I know it well enough without actually going over it again. Oh, I'm bleeding. Clearly, I've just went and, yeah. I was out doing gardening. We've been ripping up bushes in the front garden, and my legs, of course, I refuse to wear trousers or full length pants. So literally my legs get torn up because I refuse to have anything on my legs other than shorts or when I'm doing a show, a kilt. But anyway, random. I'm just being random tonight. Okay. So this is actually called The Most Beautiful Heart. Got any Scottish plague story? I'm going to do a nice story for one, Stephanie. I actually, plague stories, I think I do have. I'd need to go and read up on them again because I haven't told any plague stories for a while. But that's a good one. I will try and find one and do one on one of my sessions because I haven't told a plague story for a while. They're not as easy to find because most of them are a wee bit more fanciful. Because there's a great one actually. The Emperor of Morocco, which actually is a Scottish story. Oh geez. Okay, forget the nice story. Let's do a plague story. Okay, it's a loose plague story. So Old Rike, Edinburgh, was always a very it was a brutal city. If you've ever if you watched any of the stuff I did on Saturday when I spoke about it, the city was encased in a wall, the Flodden Wall, and it trapped the city in half a mile by a quarter of a mile. That was pretty much the entirety of the city. It had 10,000 people in it to begin with, but unfortunately, as people came into the city through different things happening throughout the world, they say that the actual population got anywhere from 35,000 to 60,000 people in this tiny half mile by quarter mile area. And we housed them by building towering tenements and basically compacting the city tightly together. Now, because of this, it always caused issues. You know, violence was a major thing. The criminal elements took over Edinburgh constantly. You had disease, you had problems, but rioting was always an issue simply because of lack of food, poor housing quality, and just general greed of certain people. Now, there just so happened to be a riot kicked off in Edinburgh. And one of the ringleaders, oddly enough, was a man of reasonable wealth. He was the son of one of the gentlemen of Edinburgh. And this boy's name was Andrew Gray. Now, Andrew was a bit of a rebellious type, and he always liked a bit of argy-bargy and a bit of fun. So, of course, he was right in the midst of this riot. But, of course, when there's a riot, the military, the police, you know, the special constables in Edinburgh all get involved. And it took a wee bit of time, but eventually the riot was subdued. You know, parts of the city were burning, things were broken into and smashed up, but most of the rioters fled. But on this occasion, it was fairly well known who the ringleader was. And Andrew Gray was hunted and eventually caught. He was thrown into the old toll booth prison on the Royal Mile, a building that used to stand outside St. Giles Cathedral. And there he was basically left to rot until he was put in front of the judge, and everyone knew it would be the gallows for him for what he'd done. But he is a man of fairly reasonable means. His family are wealthy. He's connected. So petitions are thrown in front of the judges and the councillors to try and get him off. But the city of Edinburgh on this occasion wanted to make a statement. They wanted to make sure that this didn't happen again. So Andrew Gray was going to be the man who was going to be the sacrificial lamb to control the city. And of course, he was sentenced, and he was sent back to the Tollbooth prison knowing that the following day he would be hung to death. Well, his friends, his family, they didn't want that to happen. So they hatched a plan. And the day of the trial, after he's put back into the toll booth, his family go in and start chatting to him. And one by one, they're kind of giving him tidbits and smuggling things in. And as a result, Andrew Gray that night was able to get through the bars of his prison cell. He was able to escape down the walls of the toll booth, sneaking through the shadows of Edinburgh, down those weaving closes, and he had one destination in mind. At the bottom of the hill was known as the Nor Loch, where Prince's Street Gardens is today. Used to be a huge body of water, a stinking, vile cesspit of sewage and filth that was also the drinking water of Edinburgh. But He had been told to get down there where a wee boat would be waiting. That boat would take him across the loch, where he would then have a horse waiting. The horse would take him to the docks down at Leith, where a boat was waiting to sail him to freedom. And the plan went swimmingly. He got out of the prison. He got down to the loch, across the water, on the horse, down to Leith, into the boat. And as dawn broke over the city, his friends and family were relieved to see a sail of a ship leaving the Firth of Forth, heading out to the ocean. And they knew that Andrew was safe. And he drops out of history for many, many years. Now, Edinburgh continues to grow, continues to get worse and worse, riots, disease and pestilence, until, of course, the plague hits Edinburgh. Thousands are dying. The city is sealed off. And then the guards see the worst thing happening. Coming down the Firth of Forth, they see sails. They look and they see what looks like kind of the strange foreign sails, and a few of the men recognize them as Moroccan traders. But wait a minute, what's that they're seeing? No, these aren't traders. There's flags flying. And they realize all too soon it's actually pirates. Pirates have come to Edinburgh, and they come into the port of Leith and lay waste to it, murdering and robbing, and they head towards the city of Edinburgh, which is their prize. Now, Edinburgh had expanded slightly. I should make this very clear to you. The city of Edinburgh is a section, a quarter of a mile by a half mile. But outside of that were other boroughs were growing up, little towns and settlements. So the Canonsgate, which is the second half of the Royal Mile, was now in existence. And it was where the religious people were. It's where the traders were. They were just outside the city of Edinburgh and safe from the plague that was laying waste to it. But they weren't safe from these marauders as they marched up and looted and pillaged the Canonsgate, and then came to the walls of Edinburgh, and they demanded access to the city. Let us in or we'll lay waste and slaughter everyone. Now, the people of Edinburgh knew they were in trouble. Many were dead, many were dying, many were ill. They didn't have enough men to fight off. It was said there was only 50 able-bodied men left in the city at this point when these pirates arrived. And the guards said so, but no, the pirates demanded more. So the councillors that were able-bodied came to the gates and said, "We have nothing for you." And that's when he approached the pirate king. A strong and swarthy looking man. He approached and he demanded all the gold and wealth of Edinburgh. He wanted it all, or he would lay waste to the city. But he had one more demand. He wanted the son of a certain judge in the city, the man who condemned all to die. He wanted that boy as his prisoner. The councilman listened to this. And they thought, "We can give you as much gold and money, but there's a problem. The judge doesn't actually have a son. He's got a daughter, but she's currently dying of the plague." Well, this pirate king stood for a few moments and thought about it. And he said, "Okay, here's what we'll do. Bring out all the gold, bring out all the wealth of the city, and we promise we won't lay waste to it. And bring me the daughter, and I will tend for her and tend to her." And that's what was done. They knew they couldn't resist. They knew if they said no, the walls would be broken through and these marauders would lay waste to the city. So they brought out the wealth, and on a litter, they brought this young lassie. And the pirate king took residence in a house just outside the walls of Edinburgh, a house that stands there to this day. And it's said that for many, many days, he cared for this young lady, soothing her skin with balms, cooling her brow with cloths, and feeding her and tending for her. Until eventually, after about 2 weeks, her strength started to come back. She started to get healthier and feel stronger. They started to talk to each other as the delirium faded. And over the weeks that passed, of course, a bond formed between them. A bond that some would say resembled very much like love. And after a few months, the young lady was actually cured of the plague. And when she walked out the house with the Pirate King at her side, the city of Edinburgh could not believe their eyes. How could they be cured of this plague? And on seeing this, they opened their gates to these pirates, begging for their help. And the Pirate King, now with this beautiful lady at his side, agreed to help. And he sent his men in, and they travelled from house to house with the balm and the ointments. And after many, many weeks, it was said that the majority of Edinburgh was cured of the plague. They had saved the city. And they could not believe it. And they were so grateful that they tried to give this pirate group more money. But in fact, by that point, the Pirate King refused. He actually gave them back the wealth that he had taken. And he decided now that he was happy, now he had met this beautiful woman, that he would actually stay in Edinburgh. He was going to stay here. And he decided to buy the home that he'd cared for this lassie in. And he married her. And they lived there for many, many years. But it wasn't until a few years after the marriage and life was going well that he finally admitted who he was. He was none other than Andrew Gray, the same man that had fled from Edinburgh years before. His story was simple. He had sailed out into the channels where his ship had actually been taken by pirates. He was sold from ship to ship as a slave until eventually he landed in Morocco and fell into the service of the Emperor of Morocco. His prowess as a sailor and his ability to fight, he grew in ranks and developed in ranks in the navy, we'll say, of the Moroccans, until eventually his marauding ways earned him the title of the King of the Pirates. And he was the most feared Moroccan pirate of all, with an armada of fleets of ships behind him. But when he came to Edinburgh, he had only one thing in mind: vengeance. He had actually come back to lay waste to the city of Edinburgh. But when he arrived and saw what a pitiful state it was in, when he discovered that his enemy, the man he hated the most, the man that had condemned him to death, in fact, had lost it all and only had a daughter who was dying, well, something changed in him. And when he met that girl and cared for her and fell in love with her, he realized that his vengeance was no longer within him. It was only love. And it was said that the pair lived for many, many years in that home. They had many a family, and those children grew up in that house. And if you ever want to find the house on the Canonsgate, it's just beyond what we call the Netherbow Port. You can look up, if you're walking down towards Holyrood, you'd look up to the left and you'd see a rather strange carving statue. It's like a little man with a turban on, standing in what looks like a pulpit, and it's a carving, an actual kind of statue attached to the side of the wall. And that is none other than the Emperor of Morocco. You see, Andrew Gray, when he decided to leave service, and he was allowed to leave the Emperor's service and take some of his wealth that he'd gained, the only condition was that Andrew still paid his dues in respect to the Emperor. And this was the way he did it. He brought a little bit of the Emperor to Edinburgh in the shape of that carving and had him placed on the house where he dwelled. And that is the story of how the Emperor of Morocco came to Edinburgh. Thank you. And I'm not going to lie, folks, I think it's probably been about 2 years since I've told that story. So I think I need to go and reread that one. I love that story, but yes, it's been a while since I've told that one. So thank you. Thanks, Stephanie, for that suggestion and challenging my brain cells to try and remember a tale. But folks, I'm going to get off now and get ready. I'm going to nip on at some point to the Socially Distant Fest and do a story there as well tonight. And then I will be doing my interview at 9:30. Moroccan land, thank you. That's, yes, Moroccan land, Morocco land on, it's actually known as that in Edinburgh. Thank you, Fred. It's been so long since I've told it, but that's what Fred's just said there. There is actually a house in Edinburgh, and it's called Morocco land, and that is where the story is. And that statue, last time I was there, was there. I know they've been doing a lot of work in the Canonsgate, so I hope they've not demolished that as well to build a hotel. But we'll find out the next time I get back to Edinburgh, and probably scream and roar at the travesty that has happened to my city. It's my city. Just remember that. Folks, thank you very much for your company. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm on a wee bit longer than I meant to be. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the suggestion, Stephanie. Always a pleasure. And I will see you all tomorrow. Much love.